Hi, this is Shanzai.com and we're here today with a very special video about a very interesting device. From what you can see here, obviously in my hand, it's an iPhone clone, but this particular iPhone is a very special one because after it finally finishes booting up, you'll note that it actually boots into Android. Now, this product is not yet available on shelves in Shenzhen markets or through the online web, so I guess that's another little bit of a sneak peek for you guys that you won't see elsewhere. But an interesting device we've been playing around with it for the last few days, and overall we have to say there's some things about the product that we're extremely impressed with. Now, just before we get too far into the video, what we've got here is a real iPhone in our one hand, the new clone phone here. We've got them side by side compared, so you can see they're pretty close to the same size. Now, the clone phone is a little tiny bit thicker and actually a little bit slimmer as well. So there's those differences in the terms of the hardware size. But if we get to do a little walkthrough around the hardware of the device, you'll see that there are some different features. On the back of the phone itself, there's actually some speaker holes. There is a bit of a loud, not very kind speaker. It's a bit tinny noise sounding. There is the camera lens there as well. For some reason, they thought they'd do a nice job of adding some icons to let you know that they have access to the App Store, Maps, and the Internet. But they also include something on here, which is the Wi-Fi, and that's something we've tested and used. And the Wi-Fi does work well on the device, and an iPhone in China, if you're buying one there locally, does not include Wi-Fi. So clone buyers will be able to have that as a special feature that you don't find on the original iPhone. If you look on the front side of the device, it's pretty much a mirror image of the same sort of device that you can expect from Apple, but you'll note the addition of the BlackBerry Pearl trackpad down here at the bottom that lights up when you're using it. And the trackpad is kind of an interesting feature for an iPhone. Sometimes when you're doing some one-handed navigation work on the phone, it might be more useful for people who are used to something like that, but not really a standard part of the iPhone user interface and interaction. On the bottom of the device here, you can see they've got a small micro USB connection that connects the device to the PC and also to the power supply. One of the things I have to say about the device, but this is the USB connection and the power supply. They try to kind of copy a little bit from Apple by making the USB go into the power supply that plugs into the wall. This did not work when we got this out of the box. So that was a little bit disappointing. We had to buy a special universal adapter for the batteries for the device to be able to actually charge it. So I would say there's a little bit of weak in the build in that area. You can see the microphone port down there. The other thing that is unique on the device is that it's got rocker switches on both sides of the device. The original iPhone has only on the one side. This one does, on the left side, does the same thing as the original iPhone by increasing and decreasing the volume ringer, but there is no mute switch here, which you'll find on the original iPhone as well. And if I fool around with this, you can get a little bit of a sense of how tinny sounding the speakers on the back of the phone are. They're quite loud, but the audio quality is a little bit poor. The rocker switch on the right side of the device actually helps navigate through the interface, and pressing it downwards will always start to take you back through applications, so eventually keep pressing it down will bring you back to the home screen here, and then pressing it up when you're on the home screen will take you into some of the Google Android settings and wallpaper basic application interface. Now, it is a touchscreen device, and one of the reasons we say that overall we were extremely impressed with it is I've had my hands on probably 15 different iPhone clones, most of them based around MediaTek platform with the Windows CE operating system. And one of the things that's always they cheap out on is the screen quality in terms of being able to swipe or touch the applications and have them open. You find yourself, touching an application icon 2 or 3 times before it finally opens into an extremely ugly Windows CE user interface for whatever particular application that they were faking with some kind of Apple icon. That's not the case that you'll find here with the Android operating system. That's the one great thing that is brought to the clone phone, is that the user interface is really smooth. You can see that gliding through the applications is fast and quick. If we bring up the dialer for the phone, it takes a moment, but it actually brings up a dialer that is the mirror image of the dialer on the iPhone. Now, previously on other Windows CE based devices, when you got to this level, you were suddenly looking at a Windows CE interface. So they were able to take, not only go to the icon copy level, but they were able to copy the UI for the actual phone pad as an example. Now we'll click our way back through the device here again for a second. Now some of the applications are still typical to what you would find in the Android interface. So if you're going into your contacts, it looks like the Android contacts for those of you who are familiar with that. If you're going into the messaging system, it looks a little bit more like the Apple system here. We'll take a look at that. You can see the bubbles back and forth of it, the conversation going on that are also very similar to what happens on the iPhone. And you'll also see that it's actually performing fairly snappy, touching the screen or using the rocker switch on the outside to navigate through. We've used the camera. We'll have some pictures posted below in the article showing you side-by-side comparisons of real iPhone pictures and the pictures used from the camera here. I would say the quality of the camera here is not as good. And bringing up the camera interface, we were able to notice in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen there is a bit of a darked out area on the LCD panel, so it's not quite as quite what you'd hope and expect it to be. But that being said, overall, as I said, the user interface is fantastic, navigation is good, and the screen is top quality in terms of the actual resistance and ability for you to touch it and interact with the device. That's probably the highest level of quality we've seen with any clone phone to date. If we look at this device, I guess we'll give you a lot more information and maybe some basic ideas about performance in the actual article, but so that you don't have to go on too long on this video for you here, I'd like to say there's a few things about how you might take a look at this product in terms of comparison to a real iPhone. One, if you're an Android phone operating system fan, you're going to prefer this to the iPhone, for sure. It's got a removable battery. One of the kind of cool things here is if you look on the back of the device, pop it up, you can actually get to a battery which is removable. I won't right now while the device is on. And underneath that is an SD card slot and your SIM card slot, so you can happily add removable media, which you can't do on the iPhone as well. So in that way it has a little bit of advantage. If for some reason you're a trackball fan, here's the trackball doing its wonderful thing on the device. It might be have an advantage over the iPhone for you. If you're not into the iTunes, it's definitely an advantage over the iPhone. And for Chinese customers particularly, who aren't able to use Wi-Fi on their original iPhones, this has got an advantage for them being able to buy a device and save money by being able to connect to the internet without using the 3G services. Now, of course, there's some disadvantages over the iPhone, and I would say probably the big disadvantage is no connection to iTunes and the App Store. Of course, you're not going to be able to run any of the tens of thousands of apps that you're finding on the iTunes. You're going to be able to get the thousands of apps for Google, but not the full Apple's stuff. So if you're expecting and looking for Apple-specific features and things, you won't be able to have any kind of access to that from this type of a phone. The call quality when we used the phone and did tested calls was quite good. A little bit echoey, but quite clear. We were impressed with that. Even on the original iPhone, it sounds a little bit muted, I find, sometimes. The accessories, terrible quality, not well done. They definitely decided to save a few bucks here. And interestingly enough, they decided to have the proprietary micro USB connection to be the way to connect also to the headphones and microphone for using the device. So you use that to power your device and also that area to listen to the headphones. And the cover for that, I think, is going to fall off in like weeks. It's basically a very cheap little piece of plastic there. That's not a crucial element to the performance of the device, but it is a little touch that they did kind of cheap out on. There's also some mild discoloration on the back of the device in terms of the plastic on the back, so they haven't spent overly too much money on the quality of the backing of the product. Again, maybe we'll put up some more videos for you, a little bit more about the actual performance of the applications, but for now I think that's the first introduction to a brand new version of an iPhone clone running Android. It gives you some idea what's going to happen with Android for the phones in Shenzhen in China, and probably those same phones, you'll be seeing some of those coming outside of China to a cheap dealer of phones near you.